Welcome to
The Diary of a Businesswoman.
We will give you
Thought-provoking, practical, informative business insights. Hi everyone, welcome back to Diary of a Businesswoman with Charlotte
and Christine.
Yay! Today, Christine, I feel like you need to lead today because this is completely your expertise.
Okay.
This is you.
Yeah. So to give you a bit of background about us, we're going to take you down the routes of the things that we're passionate about or that we have special interests in. So today we're going to talk about marketing.
Marketing, the strategy of every business.
Yeah, should be. Yes,
should be.
Yeah, and there's various definitions of marketing, but I always think that the best way to think about it is it's your communication from your business to the outside world. And that can be not just to your customers, but your suppliers, your neighbours, your trade bodies, magazines, and now, of course, through your social media.
I've read something quite interesting. Business Insider claims that a marketing degree is in the top 10 most useless degrees. In your opinion, do you need a degree for marketing?
I'm not sure you do need a degree. I did a diploma, a postgraduate diploma, which is quite interesting because postgraduate means afterwards, and I'd never graduated to begin with. So that was quite interesting, but that was really good. And because I'd been working in marketing for a year, maybe 2 years, by the time I signed up, I got dispensation for the first year. So it was a 3-year course, so I only had to do 2 years.
What does that, what did you say there?
Dispensation.
What does that word mean?
It means that because of your experience, you're exempt from the first year.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you have degrees, whatever the degree, you're often, if you go on to do another degree or another course, you're often pushed up the ladder just because of the background of a degree, depending on what it is, of course.
Oh, do they call that a credit transfer now? Yeah,
yes,
I've seen that.
Yeah. So I did a postgraduate diploma. Was it useful? Well, yes, it was. My only caveat on that is that it's so focused on large corporates, and so almost all the case studies we did were big businesses that, of course,
Interesting.
got loads of money.
Yeah, big budgets.
Yep.
Loads of employees.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and my focus was on small businesses, so I did find it a little frustrating. And the other side of it is, and this is not just restricted to marketing, I see the government do it all the time, is where people say, well, you concentrate on the bigger picture and the people underneath you will make it happen. Well, if your bigger picture isn't realistic, then no matter how good your people are underneath you, they cannot make it happen. And I am a bit of a detail person. I want to know that if I put a strategy in place, it is achievable and it's workable. So I got frustrated with that, but I did pass the postgraduate diploma, and it was 3 years of interesting time and meeting different people. But did it help? Yeah, I think it did. It did.
And what year did you do your diploma?
Oh, now you're asking. 19. So it must be 20-something years ago. So I'd been in business a couple of years, because when I originally set up my business, I just got a diploma in teaching. So
I never knew that.
well, there you go. You see.
Oh wow! No wonder you went on to do training and things.
Yes, exactly.
So you could be a teacher.
Yes, it was. I'd have to do a top up now.
Yeah.
But again, I'd get credit for the fact I had a diploma in teaching. So this was a diploma in word processing teaching or IT teaching. And so I thought when I set up my own business, I would offer people training in how to use their computer. But of course, actually, well, at that time, there was lots of people buying computers and not quite knowing how to use them, but also not having the money to pay somebody to come in and train them.
Yeah.
So a very good friend of mine who did my original branding said, I would recommend you do not categorise yourself. He said, having worked with you, I know that you've got lots of different abilities, so just put yourself out there and just see what comes back. So I did do some training, but in businesses, teaching people how to use word processors and spreadsheets, etc. But actually what I found out and what I realised was that people needed help with their marketing, specifically small businesses or small organisations. And I was able to get some contacts through my own network. So I did some work for, have you ever been to the rainforest?
Oh, absolutely not. There's snakes there.
It's not snakes.
There's reptiles of that family, but I've heard about it. The living rainforest. Yeah, I've heard about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I loved it there.
It's too.
The only reptiles they had, and they had to get rid of some of them. My friend worked there. She was the general manager there, and that was the first place I went in and did some IT training. And then we were talking, and she said, "We're just not getting enough profile."
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I can help there, because there's lots, you can imagine how many great stories there are there. So we did a press release campaign, mainly.
Ooh, so was this your first project?
Yes, it was. And I absolutely loved it. We used to fight each other. I actually had an employee as well.
You had an employee?
Yeah, I did.
Ooh, what, an admin assistant?
Yeah, and she she went to a client that she brought in and did database management, because really databases are all part of marketing as well. So we used to love going there. I really did. And of course they had marmosets. So the marmosets had babies.
What are
Brilliant
they?
story. Little monkeys.
Oh,
they're so cute.
They're babies.
And then there was a flower that flowered, and it's a very special flower. So we did a story on that. There was always stuff to write about. It was just a great place. And we got lots of good stories in local magazines.
Wow, how marketing was. That was the key of marketing back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We didn't have social medias.
I don't know whether they actually had a website, to be honest.
Wow.
It was originally set up by, do you know Russell and Bromley? The shoe people. They were really posh shoe people. And it was Russell, I think, who had owned it. And then I think he passed away, and it was left to a charity. And this is a fantastic charity. I can't remember what it's called now. But what they did was they went round the world buying pieces of land so it couldn't be developed.
Oh.
So that they, what their idea was with the Living Rainforest was that they could bring sponsors there and say, this is what we're trying to protect.
Wow, that would be very I don't know,
topical,
immersive.
Yes,
immersive.
Yeah, and it like I say, it's just a lovely place to go to. It's quite different from when we were there. They've actually they built an extension on it, and they've put a education, so they take a lot of school trips out.
Oh, perfect.
Which is really,
They've
really
got
good.
to.
Yeah.
Wow, so would you say, when was this then? 1990s?
Yeah, when did I set up my... Yes, it must have been. Yeah,
so like you said, sort of websites were...
Just at the beginning.
Yeah. And even now websites are sort of slowly going out, aren't they? There's a place for them.
Yes,
definitely.
They did think. I mean, I heard people talking, I don't need a website, I've got a Facebook page. And again, that limits your market because not everybody wants to be on Facebook. So,
Yep,
so a
yep.
website is open to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not contained by
Yeah.
a piece of social media.
So I would say your website is the sort of hub of resources,
Yeah.
information, links to your social medias, and then your social medias are where you sort of harvest that community,
Yeah.
keep up the day-to-day things rather than your website. Maybe you do monthly blogs, but there's nothing as consistent with websites. Would you agree?
I like to be. I know that if on Google you actually post or update your website on a regular basis, it pushes it up the ranks naturally.
Yeah.
So doing things like that, I'm a big fan of landing pages.
Can you explain what a landing page is?
Yeah, it's a page that sits behind your website, and the only way to get to it is through Google. It will be an information page, but it is on your website, so when people navigate to it, they can actually access the rest of your website. But what it does is it answers questions.
Yeah.
So where can I get, I don't know, purple shoes in Reading, and what ideally you have put as the title of your landing page, purple shoes in.
Yeah.
And what else it does allow you, because Google doesn't like you to reuse content, but if you answer the right question, it does actually allow you to repeat content. Because you can imagine, I don't know, say you were looking for an osteopath, then you might say, I want to go to an osteopath in Reading. Well, the content would be exactly the same for someone who also covered another area, such as I want to see an osteopath in Aldermaston. The same content, the content would be the same, it's only the title that would change.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Definitely.
They're all about answering questions.
Answering questions, because
They
we
should be
Google
informative.
informative. So we
Yeah.
Google questions now, don't we?
We do. We do
Very-
tend to Google questions.
We Google questions.
Yeah.
And the landing pages will sort of be that
They should
question.
answer your
They
question.
should answer that question. Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing, I find it really, really annoying if I've put in, well, for instance, you know that I used to run some networking groups called The Late Breakfast. And our initial one was in Oxford, so it was The Late Breakfast Oxford. And someone suggested to me that we put The Late Breakfast Abingdon, The Late Breakfast Bicester. I said, but they're not, it's not there. I don't mind a few miles away, you know, the local places, but I do find it annoying if I've put in a specific location and when I click on it, I find that it's like 10 or 15 miles away.
Yeah.
That to me isn't answering the question.
Google has done really well in recent years with their development of areas and locations and the services they show you in that area. Yeah, Google is the forefront of all of that side of things, isn't it?
How to search. But also the other lovely thing about Google is they wanted to level the playing field. So they will frequently change their rules, and so that the little guy doesn't get pushed down to the bottom, because the big guys can afford to, you know, just throw stuff at the internet. So they make it a more even playing field so that everybody has a chance of being found.
I'm glad you mentioned the little guys, because that is one of my big questions. So as a sole trader, you have your business, a product, service, but you've also got to be experts now at marketing, and you've got to make sure you're doing the admin right, and you've got to file your tax return and all these things. So you have a sole trader who works on their own, who's quite busy. What is a priority for them with their marketing?
What is a priority? Well, sometimes the priority is to get help.
Outsource.
Yeah, I've sat down with people and they've said to me, oh, I'm working, 12 hours a day because I have to do the admin. And what I make them do is write a list and of all of the things they are doing. So all the tasks that they feel they need to do for their business. And then what I do, I make them highlight the ones that they personally have to do. And then we look at how much it would cost them
Yeah.
to outsource the rest, so that they start to have some kind of work-life balance. And that, for me, is really important. I mean,
Yeah.
no good setting up a business and then all you do is live to work.
No.
You should work to live.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I remember seeing this at a seminar, and they said sort of work out how much that would sort of cost an hour roughly.
Yeah.
And what are your skills? I think any good business owner or employer, manager, they will employ people that know a bit more than them.
Yes.
They will,
Yes.
and it's the same for a sole trader. You use a business, find a person that is better than you are at that particular
Yes.
task to bring your attention back on your business and your sort of goals for that, the growth of that.
I mean, credit control is one of the common ones.
Credit what?
Credit control.
I
Credit-
don't know what that is.
Our business used to have a credit controller, and what they did was they made sure the bills got paid on time. And actually, a good credit controller in a certain size of business will pay for themselves, because they're
Yeah.
making sure that the money is flowing. And it is one of the things that small businesses can be really poor about. They will, say, oh, look at all my orders, look how well I'm doing. But actually, they're not getting the money in quick enough, or chasing the money. That is important.
Oh, so this is where I light up, because psychology is a big interest of mine. And it concerned me when I read online that with a psychology degree, one of the career routes they recommend is marketing.
Absolutely.
And that's quite concerning.
Oh, why
But
do you
it-
find it concerning? Oh, you think
It's
that
just
manipulation?
Manipulation,
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of using the brain, and it just feels a bit wrong to me. But then I guess a marketing campaign is to connect with your customers.
Yes.
And in order to connect, you need to be realistic and understand how their brain works.
Yeah.
But it does frighten me a bit. It feels manipulation is sort of the best way. But then marketing is manipulating, isn't it, a little bit?
It is, to some extent.
That's
yeah.
negative. That's
Yeah.
a negative opinion. But what I wanted to ask you, Christine, was the link between psychology and marketing, but in a better way than I can put.
Now, as you know, I worked in the psychology department
Mm-hmm.
many years ago, so that was quite interesting. But yeah, how does it work? Well, psychology is how people behave.
Yeah.
So it's all about behavioural. So it's behavioural psychology. And if you understand how your customers behave in certain situations, it means that you can communicate with them better. So you
Yeah.
can send messages that they can relate to. And
Yes.
so that's where it is. It's not just about manipulation.
No,
it's
that's
more about
negative.
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Communication, that is the word, isn't it? So would you say if we could define marketing in one way, it's communication?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Communicating with that customer.
Yes.
And then what are you trying to communicate?
Well, it's back to problem solving.
Yeah. What
yeah.
problem am I solving for my
that
customer?
customers. I will often say to my customers, well, you need to look at your competitors. And they'll say, oh, I haven't got any competitors. Well, of course you have, because if they're not using you, what would they use instead? So it isn't, the first thing they think of is somebody who supplies the exact same product or service, which isn't the competitor. The competitor is someone would use if they weren't using your product or service. So
I like that.
you could see how getting to know your customers, getting to know your market, makes you a better marketer.
And how would you recommend someone gets to know their market?
Okay, so it really depends. If you're an established business, then the way you might make a customer profile is,
Customer profile, I've heard of this.
yeah. So
I've done training, and you draw a little person.
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, you draw a person, and you even might give them a name, and you might do a bit of a
Humanise them.
description. Yeah, a description of them.
Humanise them.
If you're already operating, then you can look at your current customers and say, right, who is my favourite customer here?
Ideal client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who works best with me and my business, who pays on time, who is not difficult to manage, who, you know, sends me purchase orders, whatever you need to make your business run smoothly, then
What problem they have.
Yes,
And you can
what are you
bridge
solving? Yeah.
How can you bridge that gap, make their life easier, make
Yeah.
their business easier? What problem are you solving for them?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it. You're not always solving a problem. You're actually doing, well, if you were organising a wedding, you wouldn't be solving a problem. Well, you could
Depends.
say.
Could
but the
say.
problem is that they weren't very good organisers, so that was the problem you were solving. is
Yeah.
taking the stress off.
Yeah, or adding value.
Yes.
Should we put that?
Yeah,
sort of
absolutely.
adding value, solving a problem.
Adding value is a good one.
Yeah.
Adding value to something that they're doing or not doing. And we're talking about many, many years ago, and it was a business consultant went into a huge toothpaste manufacturer. And they, at the time, it could be in America, but wherever it was, this company dominated the market. They'd saturated it, and they were the dominant brand in the market. So they brought in a business consultant and said, we dominate the market, you know, we're the biggest brand, how can we sell more toothpaste? And he said, you make the hole bigger that the toothpaste comes out, so they use more.
Oh, wow.
And he
Yeah.
never got paid for that. And of course, then you use more toothpaste. But it just shows you that that kind of mind, it is how something so simple
Yeah.
can actually pay massive dividend.
And a consultant is someone that gives advice, sort of shares expertise, shares resources.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm a hands-on, so I like, because I work with small businesses, I worked with small businesses. So what I do is the first thing I do is like to put a plan together. So we would put a simple marketing plan together, and then I'd be there to implement it if they didn't have the time or resources to do it.
Yeah.
Or I'd go in as marketing manager or marketing director and make sure that the plans got implemented.
Yeah, and when we say marketing, that's sort of an umbrella term for blogs, social media,
Yeah.
advertisement on the
Printed
TV,
stuff.
printed,
Yeah.
you know,
Exhibitions.
trade,
Everything.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it sort of covers every area of that. I think what people, if they have a business or interested in it, they're gonna be really interested in social media,
Yeah.
because as we've said in previous podcasts, social media is king or queen. I like
course.
of course.
It's royalty.
Yeah, it's
There you
it
go.
is it
Yeah.
is royalty.
It was
Just like Instagram, that started off as sort of young people, and now 3 billion users.
Yeah. It's phenomenal.
And
isn't
I
it?
remember some had said, "Oh, my customers aren't on Instagram." I thought, well, there's 3 billion
sure?
people on there.
Yeah.
Are you sure they're not on there?
Yeah.
And you can see the trends happening with TikTok now.
Yeah.
People are becoming a lot more familiar with what it is. It was mentioned at the business club this morning.
Was it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a hot topic, and it came around during lockdown when we were all
Yeah.
sat inside,
Wondering what to do. With
wondering what to do.
ourselves.
So a new shiny app, new shiny toy to play with. People loved it. But
Yeah. I did notice that Waitrose
wait.
advertising TikTok, and when
Yeah.
you look, if you've ever been in Waitrose, if you look around at their demographics,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
they definitely have families, but a lot of their demographics are older.
Yeah.
And yet they've gone for TikTok. So are they trying to bring in younger people, or is it significant that they're seeing this wider
Yeah.
use?
Would you say that social media allows a customer to connect with a business more so than a website?
It's a different communication. Social
is.
media is a short, direct communication. Your website,
more personal, don't you think?
yeah, but
Yeah.
your website is the detail. That's
Okay.
how I always say about it. So,
Yeah, okay.
you know, you can't put all your detail into a social media post.
No.
Because nobody would ever read it.
No one would read it.
I mean, these podcasts, vlogs, and all of those kind of things, they allow you to get a bit more detail in.
But you've got to be invested in the person.
Absolutely.
Haven't you? You've
Yeah.
got to really be interested, because podcasts can be sort of half an hour to 2 hours, can't
Yeah.
they? So you've got to like the person and how they're talking and what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Hopefully you like us.
Yeah. Website also, say you're a technical company and you need to put technical documents on there that people can download.
Yeah, they're not going to do that on social media, are they?
So a lot of it would depend on what kind of business you are, but
Yeah.
I'd still say I can't think of any business that would only work with social media. Often I go to clients and say, right, who is your target market? And they'd say, everybody.
Oh, yes.
And
I
I'd
hear
say,
this.
right,
I hear
okay.
this a lot.
The baby at 18 months old, is that your target market? Well, no, of course not. So,
Not everybody then.
no, that's
Yeah.
right. Is the 90-year-old your target? No.
Yeah.
No. So, you know, defining it with demographics is important.
I think one of the big parts of knowing your profile, your sort of ideal customer profile, is their social and economic background.
Yes.
That's quite important. I really want to talk about how social media has changed, because back in the day, correct me if I'm wrong, but even when I was younger, TV adverts were like the thing to have.
Yes.
That was the number one sort of marketing, very big budgets, of course. But now, I would say budgets are probably more for social media
Yeah.
than for TV.
TV advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the place for TV advertising.
There's plenty of adverts on TV.
Yeah, yeah. And it's quite interesting to watch. I like looking at them and thinking, that advert is not aimed at me. I could tell straight away, you know, it's aimed at younger people. I don't really understand where it's coming from. What is interesting is the perfumes.
Oh gosh, they're a bit.
I
I don't know what it is.
I do find though that, is it me or do you think that it's very sexist?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, all the women are scantily dressed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we're back to that.
I know.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like we go backwards with them, and yet these are very modern products. You know,
Yeah,
weird.
I can hear my dad saying old-fashioned views, but some part of it is right, and I don't think you're going to like it, Christy.
Oh, go on.
Sex sells.
Yes, no, it's true.
Sex appeal
absolutely
sells,
true.
and
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't the case, but it
Yeah.
is true,
Yeah.
and it's always the women. Well, no, because then the cologne adverts for the men, they're always shirtless with oil on their abs. So yeah,
There's a really good one, which is the diversity around it is
Dove, definitely.
brilliant.
It is so good.
Yeah.
I love the one, it might have been Dove or Number 7, and it was like, I really want curly hair, and then it went to someone with curly hair,
Yeah.
and they were like, I really want straight hair.
Yeah.
And it just shows how we sort of all want what we
Yes.
haven't got, and then the people that have that want maybe what we've got or different, and it
I
was
think that's
real.
clever.
It was
Yeah.
real.
Real. Yeah, I
Real.
think you're right. I like the real ones as well.
There's a place for that now, though.
I think there is.
There's a real.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of influencers that sort of take photos posed and then take photos natural. with sort of maybe a few flaws.
Well, it's like the makeupless ones.
The makeupless ones,
Yeah, yeah.
We're trying to be more. I think we connect more now with real.
Yes.
Because it almost was taken away from us for a little bit.
It was, yeah.
Within marketing and, you know.
They got so far that it was,
You
I will
missed-
never actually get there.
Yeah.
So
It was too
it's too far away.
far away
Yeah.
to connect with.
Yeah.
Which has allowed space for people that are bigger,
Yes.
people of different ethnicities.
Yeah.
All sorts, because that's what's real life, and that's what we're all doing day in, day out, and people we're interacting
That's
with.
what we're seeing. as
seeing.
well. The other thing in adverts is comedy. People
Yeah.
remember comedy.
So a lot of speaking classes I've been to are books, comedy, humour, and I don't know, you might not agree with this, self-deprecating humour as well.
Yes,
Because
because
it's
it's
easier.
self.
Yeah, because it's easier to sort of take the mick out of yourself
Yeah.
than someone else and then potentially offend them.
Oh, there's some absolutely brilliant stand-up comedians.
I know, I love a comedian. I
Yeah,
love comedians.
but I like ones that are clever with it.
Clever.
They don't think they have to use swear words.
Oh, you're like my dad. He
Yeah.
hates comedians
I
that
don't
swear.
mind it so much.
What about then a marketing strategy? You mentioned earlier you sort of go into businesses and help them find a marketing plan.
Yeah.
What would that look like for, let's say, someone that's a sole trader, knows that it's a priority but maybe is a little stretched for time?
Yeah, the main thing is to keep it fairly simple.
Keep it sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple, achievable. Do you remember SMART objectives? Did you do
I
that?
do.
Go on.
Specific, measurable. I don't think
Achievable.
achievable.
What's the R?
Retention, no. Reward,
It's all of you shouting at the screen just at the minute to try and tell us
Yeah.
what R is for. I did this at my marketing exam, and I was
That was a while ago,
stood
Christine.
outside going, what does the R stand for? And the last one, T, is really easy.
Time.
Yeah.
Time.
Timed, but also targeted it should be. Timed and targeted.
Right.
Is it reasonable?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, achievable, reasonable, targeted and timed, because you should have some kind of level of
Yeah.
time.
So that is SMART objectives, and it's
Yeah.
just a way of setting goals.
Yes,
Yeah.
but making sure that they're goals that can be measured, and
Yeah.
so it's very popular to have a one-page marketing plan, and so
Yeah.
you'd have some objectives on it. You'd have a definition of your target market. You might have an ideal customer on there. I mean, obviously you're not going to fit too much on there. Then you've had your strategies. Your strategies might be around they're the bigger picture. So
Yeah, see, this is what you've done with me before.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you might be looking at geographical locations,
Yeah.
specific target markets in industries, and then your tactics are the things that you do to those people to engage with them.
Yeah, so there's like a step-by-step process
Yes.
within that,
Yeah.
isn't there?
And then what I'd like to do from that is create a calendar of saying, right, we're going to do this then, and who is going to do it, and some idea of cost. So we put a budget around it.
And would that calendar be a month, 2 months?
It might be as much as a year.
Could be as much as a year. Could you do the same strategy for 1 month and repeat that?
Yes, yeah, you can,
Yeah.
depending on your business. What I'd say is your strategy is probably the overall for the year,
Yeah.
and then it's your tactics. So you might well repeat your tactics month on month.
Yeah, but the overall strategy. And how often would you sort of review, reflect on your marketing
At
strategy?
least monthly.
Monthly, wow.
Yeah, I would, because
Wow.
to me, a marketing plan is never written in stone.
No, it can't
It should be flexible.
Yeah.
It should be reactive.
like any business plan, I think.
Yes, I agree. To me, there's no harm in trying things.
No.
So if you've tried something, it works, then you repeat it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I say to small businesses, if they're in a market where there's lots of bigger businesses, leaders, then look at what they do for their marketing
Yeah.
and copy it. I mean, obviously don't copy their stuff,
Yeah.
but copy what they're doing,
Yeah.
because they will have done the research.
Yeah.
So
And
they know that this connects with their market, and you just do it on a smaller scale.
one really good tip is looking in the comments.
Yes.
What questions
Yeah,
are
I look
people
in comments
ask
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
FAQs.
questions?
Yeah.
Frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
What questions are your customers answering? What is the content, and what questions have they got off the back of that? Because there's usually a problem to bridge the gap for, potentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And being smaller, you're more flexible.
You are.
You're more so the things that you can do that make you unique. Not so much on social media, but if you use any kind of printed matter, you could do some really interesting mailings that big companies just can't do because it's not cost effective to them.
Yeah, add that personal touch,
Yeah.
if possible. I got a card the other day from Jill,
Oh yeah.
who's from Travel Counsellors. She's planning a holiday for me and my mum, and I got a little thank you card in the post. Having that personal element is... So yeah, there are. I know it can be challenging with smaller businesses and sole traders, but you do have things that the big dogs don't have, and that
Yes, you
is that
do.
real connection with your audience.
Yeah, and also that ability. So, I mean, we had the pandemic. That's probably not a good example, but if something big happens, a big business, it's like, what did they used to say? It's like turning a tanker mid-ocean. It takes a very long time. As that little business, you're the powerboat and you just go whoosh,
Yeah.
and you're able to react to whatever the big thing is happening and do something very quickly that the big businesses can't do.
Yeah. So
yeah.
you use those sort of powers of being a smaller business.
Those are your superpowers.
Yeah, that's what's going to set you apart.
Flexibility, reactivity.
Yeah.
We have talked about, we've only briefly touched on, is influencers.
Oh, the big noise for the
Yeah.
last couple years, and
But there are different kinds of influencers.
there
There's
are.
your parents, there's your friends. These were the ones that we would have talked about years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say influencers. What would you define an influencer in today's society?
Yeah, it's a lot more about people who are on social media and who influence you into buying or spending your money.
Do you know how much money they make?
Oh, yeah, millions. some of them,
Thousands
don't
and
they?
thousands
Yeah.
for one Instagram post.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That must be nice.
You know, they're different now. We've got different categories of influencers, but you mustn't forget, well, in a company, in a big business, the influencer might be the manager's PA.
Yeah.
Because she influences how her boss might look to buy, I don't know, a piece of equipment, where he might look, because she might be the one who does the research.
To be an influencer, though, you have to be someone that people trust.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like
you
your
have-
parents, your friends.
Yeah.
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 That's why it's so interesting with social media that actually what you're doing is trusting somebody who is a stranger.
That you've never met.
Yeah.
But then usually, there's a lot of videos, a lot of content that's built up that trust without even meeting the person.
But when you think about it, as animals, that wouldn't be enough. We are still...
Or is it
base.
like because we'd want to be like that person?
Yes.
Is that what we're doing? So
Yeah.
we're seeing these influencers that
Aspirational.
I know a lot of influencers I see are beautiful,
Yes.
but they've probably had a lot of plastic surgery. Some of them I know
Or I
have
a lot of makeup.
a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
They've edited their photos.
Yeah.
You know, that it's not the sort of real day-to-day person you would see if you saw them down the street. But is it that insecurity of mine?
Not yours.
Not me.
specifically.
Not me
But
specifically. I'm very
it's-
confident.
But it is a very generational thing.
It
I
is,
think.
isn't it? You want to be. You think that's the way to be.
But do you think, to some extent, that these come from things like wars? Where,
Oh wow, that's how. Yep.
if you think how deep that is, then, you know, we had World War One and we had World War Two, and thousands of people died, mainly men. And so they had nothing. And after the war, money, whoever the victor is, then has to spend money on rebuilding the people who weren't the victors, the losers, basically. So actually, you know, for a while you have the people at the bottom of the food chain have nothing. A lot of the men didn't have jobs, so they had nothing. And really, to bring in aspirational things means that people will work harder and
Right.
to then make their life better. I mean, the big thing used to be, so for instance, my grandmother was illiterate, so she couldn't read and write. However, she could do her numbers, bizarrely.
Right.
So, of course, shopping, you needed to do something like that. But, you know, then you think she had 10 children. Her husband died in his 50s because he worked in the mill. And, you know, he breathed in the cotton fibres, and he died of, I think it was septicemia or something to that effect. So then she's left, but by then, just trying to think, her youngest children would be about 12, but still she's got 12-year-olds still living at home, and the prospect is that they were 2 girls, that they would be there until at least 18, 19, 20, and she's supporting them whilst they finish school. So is it that it was actually that generation that started to push the aspirational side of it through film stars?
Wanting to be someone else.
Yeah, wanting to be better. And
wanting to be better.
What they wanted was something better for their children. So my grandmother lived in a rented house. She never could have thought about owning her own home. My mum and dad started off in rented house. They did own their own home. We would naturally think that we would own our own home. Do you know what I mean? You can see how the progression is going.
Through the generations.
Through the generations, and wanting the life of your children to be better than your life. Well, now, actually, it's not that difficult. Life isn't that difficult. So that aspiration is gone. So has the aspiration to be more beautiful?
Yeah.
That replaced it.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at.
Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I do.
And it's quite interesting, isn't it? How it has, in such really a short space of time, changed so much.
That's how we evolve, though, isn't it?
It is,
and how we have
absolutely.
evolved. Because
Yeah.
men now are taller.
Yes.
Because obviously it was deemed
they're eating better.
Yeah, and that. Yeah, because some of the doorways in some of these old houses really low down, because we used to be a lot shorter than we are
did,
now.
yeah.
But it was deemed that men being taller was more attractive. It was,
Oh, absolutely.
and it was to keep the reproduction going.
Tall, dark and handsome.
Tall, dark, and handsome.
Yeah.
A standard sort of line there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. There's all sorts of things to think about in that area. It's fascinating. Did you know Mary Queen of Scots?
My fave. I love that queen.
She was
Fascinating.
quite tall.
Really? She was
Yeah.
really pretty, wasn't she? Well, in that day.
Yes, she was very tall though for that time.
She led her men to battle.
Yeah,
I love that woman. Don't know her, but
she didn't have an easy life because her first husband was killed.
first one was killed. Second, she plotted to murder.
Yeah,
With
and he died.
The Earl of Boswell, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
But she became Queen of Scotland when she was, a couple months old?
Yes.
And they sent her to France.
And that's she married the French prince.
Yeah, and then she ended
Because
up being
that was-
beheaded by her own cousin.
Yeah.
But
that's
she
awful,
did
isn't
plot.
it?
She plotted to kill her and then take over with France. Oh, I love Mary Queen of Scots. She's so interesting.
She is.
When she was
interesting.
beheaded, her wig fell off.
Oh.
I know.
She had arthritis. She was
Oh,
only
really?
40 something, I think. But she was so tall that they had to make a special coffin for her.
Oh, wow.
Oh, she was so
tall?
when we say so tall, we're thinking, God, she must have been well over 6 foot. She wasn't, but she.
Hi, are you happy? Do you think
Yeah.
we've covered?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
we've covered a lot.
Got some key messages in there, isn't there,
I
about
think so. I
connecting,
think,
knowing your audience. You've said
yeah.
some gems. Everyone, we have come to another end of another amazing episode. A few gems in that one with marketing, a very important part of any business strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you're a small business or any kind of business, actually do think about your marketing plan. Think about your ideal customer and be focused, and connect with your people.
People buy from people.
Yeah, people buy from people they like.
Like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So I've been Charlotte, everybody.
And I've been Christine.
Thank you, and join us next time.
Bye.